All right, so first play we're going to look at, 2nd and 2, one of the Patriots' first offensive plays.
What's going on, everyone? Mike Kadlick, Taylor Kyles here for CLNS Media, back with another episode of the Patriots Daily Podcast, powered by PrizePicks, powered by Omaha Steaks. I believe we're also powered by Monarch Money today, and we are also powered by a Victory Friday here as the Patriots coming off their 27-14 win over the Jets on Thursday Night Football. We, especially Taylor, running on fumes here. We were, I believe, on the Gillette Stadium field until roughly 1:30 last night doing post-game. Taylor grinded out the film here, and we are back to break it down a little bit further. We will go through a couple talking points from the offense and a couple talking points from the defense here, look a little bit at what went good and what went wrong as the Patriots enter here this mini bye week. Not only 9-2, Taylor, but also in first place in the AFC with plenty of MVP chance for Drake Maye. And I'll just say before we dive into it that given the circumstances of, I guess, what was surrounding this game, a short week, back at home, a lot of maybe not pressure, but a lot of eyeballs on this team where, the soft schedule talk comes into play and rookie or second year quarterback. And is this really like, is this team really legit? And although it was the Jets and although they didn't completely blow them out, I thought this was a very, professional win where they went in, they took care of business. Although it was relatively close, it didn't really feel like it was ever out of their control. And to me, and it's the topic of the show, I think it kind of showed that this team is actually not just a playoff team, but they're professional enough to potentially be a Super Bowl contender. I don't know if that's too far for you yet.
No, I mean, they've faced a lot of different tests, and this one felt like, okay, is this the best team? No. And if you played them in a regular Sunday, I think that people would have probably seen it very differently. I know I probably would have going into it, but this was a short week against a team that has pulled off a couple upsets. They were on their own 2-game win streak, and then in the division, you just had the Bills getting blown out by the Dolphins. Right. So you're kind of feeling like, all right, could something really funky happen here because it's a division game on a short week? But I feel like the growing sentiment and what people are understanding now is that this is like an adult football team that doesn't just, take things for granted. It doesn't rest on their laurels. They really do want to go out and play their best football, even if they don't. Like, looking at the tape, there were absolutely still some times where it looked like it was a short week. And, in the run game, there were some things that were off, and Drake's execution wasn't always perfect. But even still, the game was close at halftime, and then they started to build their lead. And while they absolutely could have played better, they still were clearly the better team out there. And I think that was really what you wanted to come out of this saying and not feel like, they really played down to their opponent. I don't think that happened. I just think that we have seen this is a team that is very good. And I think, like Vrabel even said, the offense, the only thing stopping it is itself. And the defense does a really good job adjusting after they struggle, even if the red zone really needs to get tightened up. So this isn't a perfect football team, and we'll get into that. But at the same time, I was overwhelmingly positive in how I felt about the game overall.
100%. I think, and you talk about sort of the professionalism of this team and kind of how they look at this season as a whole. And I feel like, although we've said it a couple times, internally, they don't feel like they're playing with house money and sitting there like, oh shit, we already won 9 games. We've already done their job. Like, this can, even if this deteriorates, we're on the right track. Like, they still have a one-track mind here, and I hope that doesn't go away over the 3-day break. It certainly doesn't sound like it, given that, Robert Spillane was asked about it. He said, I expect most people to be here in the facility this week. On Amazon Prime, Drake Maye was asked about it. He said, I'm getting out of here. He was like, I'm leaving. I won't be here till Monday. But I think he's earned that. I think they've earned that. And I think so long as they come back and, go back nose to the grindstone with this thing, that, that they've earned the right to, not relax, but rest and, get geared up for the second stretch run. Because as Robert Spillane said, that's really what this season is going to come down to, is sort of the second half of the season here. You look at,
and Stephon Diggs even said, like, after the game, that the way that we see the game, and it was understanding that we have a very different perception of them and what's going on than what the team does. For them, like, this is their job. I feel like sometimes we ask questions like, about motivation. Like, what motivates you? What gets you going? It's like, these are professional athletes.
Right.
Really shouldn't surprise us that these guys want to work hard. It's just that the past 2 years have been so bad that understandably the culture of all these guys doing exactly what these guys are doing right now, that's what the Patriots were known for. Although obviously the environment was very different. It wasn't quite as, relaxed and empathetic and all those things that Vrabel has instilled himself in the ways that he has separated himself from Bill. They still were this, and understandably they lost some buyout in the past couple of years, but this is what I expect from football teams with good coaching, with good front offices who filled the team with quality people. That's something Mike Vrabel talked about that I think we are always on top of, but can get easily lost in the sauce where, yes, this is a more talented roster, but also just the quality of person where they do want to hang. You don't really have people who kind of end up at the corner of the locker room who never talk to anybody, because we've seen that. It's not right, wrong, or different, but that's happened because of people being put in certain situations or just their response to the stimulus around them. But this is a team, as we said last night, that is full of a bunch of dudes who are hungry. And when you got a guy like Mike Vrabel who motivates you, a guy like Josh McDaniels who's done it before and can get buy-in because he's done it before many, many times, and Zach Core, who maybe is an up-and-comer, but someone who clearly has the respect of the staff that he's already worked with and the players that he leads because he's putting them in good positions more often than not.
And the last thing on that before we dive into sort of, what happened last night, and we'll start here with Drake Maye, who, again, continued his MVP resume so far this season with what he did yesterday. Just last thing on sort of the culture and what they built with Vrabel. I felt like watching that interview with Prime, with the Prime video after the game with him and Drake, that was almost the first time where like Vrabel kind of not let his guard down, but he was asked like, how happy are you right now? He was like, man, I'm so happy. Like, we're 9-2, like we're right here. And it almost felt like a weight off his shoulders. Like, we got through the stretch run, or we got through this first stretch. We get a little break here, and we did it the right way. We did it our way, and we got through and got things done. So that has been that one-track mind. And not that it was a slip-up by any means, but it was almost like he finally was able to be like, no, yeah, like we get a little break here. We've done it. We got to keep going. But we have put ourselves in a good position here through 11 weeks. So, again, right now, I know things may and probably will change given the weekend, what's to come. But right now, the Patriots sit in first place in the AFC. And if the season, which it would never end after two teams play, but if the season did end today, Patriots would have the first round bye. So they are certainly on the right track. Let's get into.
If the week ended today, then they'd also have the best record in the NFL.
Exactly.
They do, but obviously
can't end after one game. But you still take it. You look at the standings right now, and they do have the number one seed. And a lot of that had to do and has had to do with Drake Maye, the leading MVP candidate, again, as we said, throughout the NFL. I said it last night on the show. I feel like there's nobody in the NFL playing better football right now than Drake Maye. Now, overall, are there better players? Call it, the other quarterbacks who have more experience, what have you. Yes, but like right now, he's playing and has more command and more control than really anyone I've seen so far this season. Last night, he goes 25 of 34, 281 passing yards. The touchdown pass to TreVeyon Henderson, another 100-plus passer rating. I believe he was 8 of 11 against the blitz. I believe I heard that right. Alex Barth said that earlier on the radio, so credit to him for digging that out. But continued, and I thought maybe it was just because I was able to, or I kind of not watched it a little more closely, but like notice his command where he never, ever looked rattled in that game. And you look at some other younger quarterbacks, even when they do have their coach in the headset, they go up to the line, they're running checks, they're trying to run around. All of a sudden, play clock's like 3, 2, 1, and they might not be ready, and they just got to go hike the football. Drake Maye standing in the back there like prime Cam Newton used to, where, lean back, arms down, motioning guys through, throwing his hands up, just like knowing exactly what's going on at basically every single turn. I feel like that's one of the more, that's sort of been my takeaway from him after this week, is just his complete control and command of the offense. But overall, watching over the game again, Taylor, what did you see from Maye? What was good, what was bad, and what did you make of his Thursday night performance last night?
Drake Maestro Maye, you think we can get that going? Maybe
I like that. Instead of Drake Maye.
I mean, we just try to put more nicknames on Pro Football Reference.
Yes,
That's
exactly.
Because the more nicknames you have, the more legendary you are. But Drake Maye continues to make it look easy when he's under pressure. That, once again, is the area where I really thought he stood out. So he was 11 of 15 for 101 yards with a big-time throw, had that batted pass where he tried to throw a corner out to Hunter Henry. Probably would have been a touchdown.
He was open.
Unfortunately did get batted down, though. Throwaway on a scramble, which I liked. I was really nervous he was about to run out of bounds. Let it go right before he did, so that was a positive. Took a sack, but he also had 5 conversions, and his 11 completions were actually a career high for when he was under pressure, so that was very good. Stephon Diggs was the guy he went to most, went 3 for 3 going there. Henderson actually got the most receptions because one thing that really impressed me was how often and aware he was of his checkdowns. Noticed it in game, but it stood out even more on tape where usually checkdowns are a play that you're not really going to put a plus or a minus or whatever. It's kind of just a 0 there. But I have a soft spot in my heart for when a quarterback goes through his progressions or when the pocket is closing in around him and he knows exactly where to dump it off. And we've seen him do the flick to TreVeyon Henderson before. But he really did a good job negating potential negative plays by going short. And just how unfazed he is. What we talk about it each and every week. And sometimes it's a bad thing. Like there was a play where he kind of did a jump pass to check it down and then got buried. I don't know if anybody noticed. That was actually a very scary hit that he took. Bradbury kind of
every single game he smacked his head on the ground. It happened last night too. And it's like, and it wasn't a check down scenario, but I think he ran and even tried to go down himself, but he still his head just banged against the ground. I'm just like, you need to protect that noggin. But anyway, continue.
No, you're right. He's got to protect the noggin. But under pressure and on those intermediate throws, he really was pretty fantastic.
Yeah.
The throw that we saw where he kind of climbs up in the pocket against pressure, then fires it to Stephon Diggs, had a really nice crossing route to Demario Douglas. And then him and Mac Hollins are really finding some good chemistry in the intermediate part of the field, especially on those digs that we know that Drake likes to throw. And also the Mac Hollins is pretty good at. He's got some shimmy at the top of the route that he uses, kind of catches guys off guard sometimes. We're going to get into some of the negatives later, kind of getting to Kyle Williams of it and why there were so many misconnects. And, Drake definitely wasn't perfect in this one. There were times where I thought his eyes were in kind of funky places before he wound up where he actually was supposed to go. Might have missed like 1 or 2 opportunities here or there, but really for the most part, I didn't come away from this feeling much different than I did when I watched it live. It did, I think, contribute to his MVP performance when you consider the circumstances. Once again, was he perfect? No, but he was a reason you won against a very sloppy Jets defense. That was another thing that made this whole review kind of weird, was that the Jets were so bad so often that it kind of made these wide open opportunities for the Patriots where it's like, I want to give you credit, but damn, I don't know what these guys are exactly doing. But even with that, he took advantage back into the hundreds for his passer rating. He did have a turnover-worthy play, and I did think that was on him after looking back at it. Almost had 2. The second one wasn't his fault. I thought that was when he like kind of threw it to the sideline thinking that Kyle Williams was going to adjust. Yeah, that looked like kind of like last week where it didn't count as a turnover-worthy play, but I'm like, that hit that guy right in the hand. So I don't know. But a really impressive performance from Drake Maye on a short week, continuing to show the poise in the pocket, the ball security, keeping 2 hands on it, and the comfort to let these throws go, man. It's just, it really looks like he's aging by like a season every week at some points. And the things that we end up kind of criticizing him for, justifiably, because we have to make sure that we're acknowledging where he's good and where he needs to improve. There haven't been a whole lot of weeks where there's like a 3-week span where I'm saying he's making the same mistakes. There's the putting himself in harm's way, but like we even said last year, you got to have some leeway, as Josh said. He's learning. He's growing. He's going to make some mistakes, but there really weren't any mistakes in this game where I was like, oh, that's the shit that gets you beat. I was going to force that one on the floater, and I think you can kind of still put it in that bucket. But when you consider how consistent he's been on downfield throws outside of that, it's kind of hard to critique him when he's aggressive. They throw downfield more than a lot of people. There's also, we need to acknowledge when it comes to their pass protection, so many deep drops in the pocket that kind of make it tougher, especially the offensive tackles. That's why they use a lot of chip help. They go downfield a lot, and it pays off more often than not. And that's a credit to this 23-year-old sophomore quarterback who is literally scratching the surface of his potential. Running out of superlatives, running out of compliments. We're saying the same things every week. I'm sorry if I sound redundant.
I'm with you though. I find myself, and if and when I go back and we'll like rewatch a segment of our show or whatever, I feel like I'm using the same words. Phenomenal, incredible, but he can impress. I always say he continues to impress. He just keeps getting I don't want to say incredibly better, but marginally better every single week. And like you said, he's not making the same mistake, twice or really, I guess, 3 times. There's been a couple weeks where he's like, oh, you're still kind of doing XYZ. But for the most part, they're getting after it in the film room, obviously, and making sure that these things don't happen. The pocket presence last night, there was a couple plays where, again, stepping up, 2 hands on the ball, feeling the rush, having a perfect awareness of, what's going on around him so he can dip and dunk and then get the ball out to guys, not just on a dump off, but down the field. That play to Stefon Diggs, the other one to Mac Hollins in the first half. So,
keeping the eyes downfield, practice coming over to the game tape.
Staying a passer. That's the key right there. And the protecting himself, I'm with you as far as, that's got to be a part of his game because that makes him that much more dynamic. So if he stops making 10, 15-yard runs, defenses aren't going to, or I guess they're not going to respect him and you keep going. But if he stops doing that, that's what makes him so dangerous as well. So it's a unique balance where you take what you can get. Don't try and get that extra 2-3 yards if you don't have to. Go down, protect yourself, what have you. But it has to stay a part of his game too because that adds to how dynamic his game truly is. You mentioned the receivers there. I want to hit on Stefon Diggs, Mac Hollins specifically, and then also a little bit on Kyle Williams too, and that disconnect they've had here. So we'll get to that here in just a second. But first, I got to tell you guys about our friends over at PrizePicks. Because as you know, this episode and every episode of the Patriots Daily Podcast is powered by PrizePicks. The hard-hitting football action is even better with PrizePicks. The weather might be changing, but the feeling of being right never gets old. So keep your season rolling on PrizePicks by getting $50 instantly in lineups when you play your first $5. PrizePicks is the only daily fantasy app that offers stacks, meaning you can pick the same player up to 3 times in the same lineup. So Bucks play the Bills this weekend in Buffalo. If you want to pick Josh Allen or Baker Mayfield for that matter, to have more passing yards, more rushing yards, and more touchdowns, you can do all of that in the same lineup, and that is only on PrizePicks. So head over to PrizePicks today, download the PrizePicks app, use code CLNS, and you get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Again, that's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, it's good to be right. All right, so Drake Maye, as we said, another great game, padding that MVP resume and conversation. And yeah, there you go, the MVP chance. Did you hear them when they did the Amazon broadcast too, just around him, and he was on the Amazon post game?
Drake probably just has that ringing in his ear all the time. That dude is on a walk by the water and literally just.
The best last night was right under the press box. Patriots are on defense, and all of a sudden there's one guy just yelling, Drake Maye. Drake, man. I'm just like,
I was like, is somebody going to join this board?
Yeah,
man?
I know.
By himself, but hey, loud and proud.
Patriots have their quarterback, and he's finding this connection with these receivers. As we know, Stefon Diggs, their leading receiver, once again goes over 100 yards, 9 catches for 105. Mac Hollins has 4 catches for 64 yards. Could have gone over 100 if he was able to reel that one in, that long throw, which was probably Drake's best throw of the night. Not necessarily a drop. It looked like Mac got his hands on it, and then the defender punched it out. But let's hit Diggs and Hollins first before we get into Kyle Williams. What did you see from these two veterans that have allowed Drake Maye to truly unlock his game, and specifically into last night?
It was a lot of what we've seen from him before, like Mac Hollins being aware of where he is in zone, making himself available, being able to eat cushion deep, although it didn't pan out. And what a throw, seriously, from Drake Maye. Another one where, and this is when we talk about the poise. It's not just sliding and maneuvering. It's having an unblocked rusher bearing down on you, knowing you're an athletic quarterback and you could run away from it if you wanted to, or go backwards in the pocket or try to protect yourself. And the dude takes shots. Also, by the way, he does wear a flak jacket. Talked about that.
Oh, okay.
I saw it after the game. I was like, genuinely thank God, because if you're gonna be that brave, you need to protect yourself. But yeah, that was a crazy throw to Mac Hollins with a rusher about to give him a shot in the ribs. But more of that. Stefon Diggs, same thing. Even though it looked like he actually didn't know what was going on the scramble play that he ended up catching on the sideline because he looked kind of confused and almost like blocked. I don't know what he was doing, but hey, at least he figured it out and wound up on making himself available. I was disappointed, though, at the missed opportunities that these guys had. They've been very reliable, but also like you almost expect them to be automatic. So
yeah, right.
Maybe that's unfair, but I highly doubt that Stephon Diggs and Mac Hollins are making excuses because those two dudes are lunatics when it comes to accountability on the football field and with their football process and all that. Like Mac Hollins, I feel like he had enough time to secure that and bring it to his body so that it wasn't stretched out for the pass breakup to be a thing.
Right.
Maybe that's easier said than done, but again, I just can't imagine that he's saying like, "Hey, man," but like the guy punched out,
made
like,
a good play. Yeah,
exactly. I feel like he understands that he probably could have done something better. And then Stephon Diggs, the one I wasn't sure if Drake kind of led him to the safety on the play that he dropped. Maybe, but
it's
even
hard.
still, man, like you're Stephon Diggs, that very much was alligator arms. Like it wasn't a difficult catch to make. You secure it and you try to get down. Like I think he had time to make that one as well. And then, the other drop escape.
So quickly on the Diggs one, the alligator arms, like, and when you say alligator arms, when I say alligator arms, like he didn't literally like stop short. He did stretch out all the way, but same in the alligator arms realm, I guess. Like it was almost like he heard footsteps. Like he got his hands on it, but didn't go all the way out to go make the catch because the safety was beaming in on him. And then obviously he got hit and got hurt. But he made an effort, but then again, you hear footsteps and you put yourself in harm's way like that. And like you said, Drake led him probably a little bit too far into the defender. He could have either let him upfield or put it more on his body. But that was definitely a catchable ball and a play that Stephon Diggs should have made.
Thought so too. I'm trying to find what was the other drop because now it's escaping me.
No, there was another one. I don't remember if it was.
Was it over the?
Oh,
middle?
it was the one where it was. They called him short on 4th and 1.
Oh, the
slant.
Up
and hit the ground. Yeah.
Yes. So, and that's another one where like he's done it before. We've seen him protect the ball as he's hitting the ground so it doesn't bounce. So those are two that you expect Stephon Diggs to make, but otherwise it was more of the same. These guys being very reliable. You still miss Kayshon Boutte giving you that more consistent vertical element, but you can very easily work the short to middle part of the field when you have Stephon Diggs and Matt Collins in the offense. And it helped because unfortunately you didn't get a whole lot of Kyle Williams. And as we know, Ethan Chisholm, he's on the field at times, but he doesn't really have a role in the passing game. Still have Hunter Henry, even though I feel like he's cooled down, honestly, in the past month or so. He still makes his plays like last week, and especially against the Falcons, I remember he had a few key conversions, but it feels like it's not quite as automatic as he usually is. But hey, I feel like they kept Kayshon Boutte out of that game because it was a short week. So if he comes back, I feel like, Diggs and Holland still have to be more consistent than they were in that game. But I think we're going to see this offense maybe take another step forward because you're seeing Drake Maye mitigate some of the mistakes he's making. And then you add Kayshon Boutte to what's already, they've been good intermediate the past 2 or 3 weeks. It's been the deep passing game that's been a little wonky, and we'll talk about why considering the Kyle Williams angle of this. But still could be better, but those guys were pretty solid all around.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think you saw the deep passing has struggled a little bit since Boutte's been out, but like last week they hit the long one to Mac Hollins. Yesterday they should have hit another one. Like those shots are there to be made. They just haven't been as consistent as they were early on the year. You talk about that Saints game where you had Pop, you had Kayshon a couple times where it was just Drake was letting it rip, and I don't know if it's necessarily his fault or if it's just the skill set around him. Again, missing a Kayshon Boutte, but again, hopefully if he is able to come back next week in Cincinnati, you think 10 days with the hamstring. Again, we never know, and we're not 100% sure where he is on his recovery track, but that could certainly open up the offense much more. On the passing attack and also the rest of the offense here, let's talk a little bit about TreVeyon Henderson, who carried the load really for, I guess, the second time, given last week he was the main back too. But 19 carries, 62 yards, 3 total touchdowns. Obviously had that nice out of the backfield seam route that we talked about last night. But great design, get him out there, get everyone kind of rallying to Stephon Diggs and Hunter Henry's side. Drake looks there too with the pump fake and then is able to hit Henderson for a touchdown. He had the goal line one where, he had the pile push, but he was also turning his legs as well. That
was all him until the pile got there because they
100%.
Missed some blocks and he made it work.
And the cut he made too. There was a guy beaming in on him once he got the football and he stuck his left foot in the ground and just charged forward. Man, does he hit the hole hard. He is just an electric player. And and I know we talked about it last night, I don't expect him to necessarily completely take over as the RB. I think their best bet is to have him and Ramondre not on the field at the same time, but taking, similar, or I guess you can put them on the field at the same time, but similar reps, use those guys interchangeably and kind of keep that room moving forward. But
don't
again,
say
another
it too loud. The fantasy people are going to hear you.
Well, I know, right? But another solid day for Henderson yesterday after what was a slow start to his NFL career. What'd you see from the rookie back?
He's getting better every week, man. Like, truly, you see him look more and more like what he looked at Ohio State, and maybe even better because he's actually adjusting to the speed of the NFL now. And things that stood out to me, the footwork, like you mentioned it, like so quick and able to still make read steps, and I think show that patience where he's not hitting the hole immediately. He's kind of waiting for things to develop and still making aggressive cuts. And in the red zone, that's where I thought the run game really started to shine. Was like he's finding the alley and then gliding through, but he's also so powerful that you can't bring him down. Like you mentioned, there was the goal line run where everybody kind of pushes him in once he actually gets himself in a good position. And then the other one where he exploits a good hole, but still you see the power he's running with. There was one run on duo where he goes through a nice hole and then trucks a guy. In the last series where he goes 3 straight runs and converts, there weren't these gaping wide open run lanes that he was going through. It was condensed. There was one where there was like, I think it was a fullback lead play and it was outside zone. So there were a lot of bodies and it was pretty congested. Did a great job getting skinny, staying upright, working through contact, and just keeping his legs turning to get as much as he could out of those runs. Obviously ends up converting on that third run. So I just continue to be so impressed by him. Also to be able to go up, get that pass in the back of the end zone. I don't know, man. You're a young player. You could make a mental mistake, whether it's a drop, maybe not realizing where you are and kind of stepping out of bounds. There's plenty of mistakes you can make in that situation. But, man, TreVeyon Henderson continues to earn, I think, this coaching staff's trust, is getting better in pass protection as well. There was one rep where he wasn't great, but he was dishing out some big hits. There was a rib shot he gave to Jermaine Johnson where the guy, fell down after. Damn. TreVeyon packs a wallet, man. And the fact that he moves as fast as he does, I don't want to tackle him. I'm glad that's not my job, but he was a lot of fun to watch, obviously live and also on the tape. But you just appreciate it more seeing how deliberate he was with his footwork and how concise he was. Just really impressive performance. He keeps stacking these. And I don't know if it's necessarily a ceiling, but I hope he keeps up on this trajectory. I'm sure it's not going to continue to be linear because he is a rookie and this is the NFL, but at least he's gaining some level of confidence in himself. And as I said, probably the coaching staff.
No, definitely. And I think it gives, again, him, the staff, and it just gives them not a backup plan, but like when Stevenson's in and kind of taking, the share of the majority of the carries or whatever, they're kind of relying on him in the run game, the pass game. It gives them the confidence to say, we need to give Ramondre a breather, get TreVeyon out there. Or, hey, we're going to change it up a little bit, take Ramondre out. It kind of like the 1-2 punch that Gibbs and Montgomery have been in Detroit. Now I don't think either of them may be nearly, I guess Henderson could approach potentially Jahmyr Gibbs status, but that's the A1, most electric running back duo, but they can be like that light and kind of use both of them interchangeably, keep their legs fresh. And David Montgomery, I thought that guy's career was going to be over, 2-3 years ago. And he just continues to take on a lighter workload, play when he has to, work himself into that Lions offense. And I think the Patriots could do something similar here with Ramondre and with TreVeyon Henderson as well. So good stuff there. Able to pick up another solid offensive weapon in the draft this past year. Another offensive weapon, the Patriots have been able to get out of this past year's draft was Will Campbell, who looks pretty good yesterday. He had that nice finish there on that, the one where Drake stepped up and hit Mac Hollins, but that was awesome. The offensive line overall kept Drake Maye clean, only had 1 sack on the day. The run game was okay. Thought they could have been a little bit better there, but just quickly, your thoughts on the performance from those front 5 guys going from Campbell, all the way to Morgan Moses.
Yeah, I thought Will Campbell was pretty good overall. Now, he did have a sack nullified by a penalty. And I think it was the second time I've noticed that he didn't recognize a blitz. This one was really weird too, because it was clearly a down lineman. it was 5 guys and there was a linebacker. And you could tell that all the bigs were on bigs and TreVeyon Henderson was coming inside to block the linebacker. So I don't know why Will Campbell was confused on that one, but that was an untouched hit on the quarterback. And it doesn't matter that it didn't count because Drake still got hit and it ain't a video game. So that very much did happen. And he also got a holding call where his arm got kind of he slid up and it was in the defender's neck. And I was like, okay, I understand that is a hold. But he was really good otherwise. And I think PFF had him for like one hurry, but I'm pretty sure it is the one where he buried the guy. And I don't even think that's a hurry. So overall, it was a good game from him. Just got to clean up those recognitions against blitzes. Jared Wilson, this was his first clean sheet since the week 2 at Miami. It's only the second game in his career where he hasn't allowed a single pressure, so really good stuff from him. He was kind of due because he'd struggled in the past few games, but I did think he was better. Mike Nwenu and Morgan Moses only had 2 hurries allowed each. Juwan Briggs. Is it Juwan Briggs? I think that's his name. Juwan Briggs, I'm pretty sure his name is. He put both those guys on skates, and there was also a loop where he got free. But otherwise, the right side was very good in protection. This kind of felt like a return to form game for Mike Nwenu. He laid some big hits, bro. Like when he wasn't covered, there were a couple times where he helped other people. And a Mike Nwenu rib shot does not sound fun. No. And it didn't look fun because those guys dropped. It was like, let the bodies hit the floor. So really cool to see Mike Nwenu. And also, obviously, he had that pull where
I saw that you shared. Yeah.
He made Quincy Williams' face bounce off the turf. That shit's crazy. I don't think I've ever seen that happen to somebody. Rarely do I feel bad for another team's defender, but I was like, God damn, I hope he got checked for a concussion because that was really bad. Garrett Bradbury did allow a hit. That was his first since week 6 at New Orleans, but it was tough. It was a 3-man stunt where I think it was Jermaine Johnson looped around. He noticed, but he was like a tick late, and Jermaine Johnson's very fast, wound up hitting Drake Maye. That was on the deep throw to Matt Collins. That was why he took that massive hit, because you had, I think Jermaine Johnson seems like he's like a 4.4-ish guy, right? Like he's
fast. Yeah.
So he like the burst from him coming around. I was like, oh my, God bless Drake for taking that sack. That was a big hit, or not sack, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
The only sack they allowed on record was the one for Hunter Henry, but he was put in a really tough spot. Like I don't know. That was again Jermaine Johnson.
Yep.
That's a huge mismatch. Like Austin Hooper, to be fair, there was a rep in the game where he actually did a very good job and forced the guy around the arc. But I think also the fact that he was in motion didn't help, because it's one thing when you're kind of standing in your base, you get into your kick. It's another thing when you're not even settled and then you have to block somebody. So I didn't love that from Josh, to be honest. And also, there was like one hurry from TreVeyon Henderson. But other than that, man, Drake had some gorgeous pockets to work with. And you could see that live in the broadcast. I'm pretty sure the broadcast team I don't know if they acknowledged it or not. I wasn't listening. But
Amazon has some cool like pocket health thing. Did you see that? That was awesome. I never seen that until yesterday.
Yeah, and I think that was a pretty healthy pocket for Drake Maye, and that's the reason I think he was able to have so much success, maneuver the pocket, because it wasn't always a clean pocket, but it's not always going to be. Sometimes you just need to be an adult and be able to navigate it and make the most of your situation. And there were plenty of times that Drake Maye climbed or did what he could to also make his line look good, but hey, they kept him clean for almost the entire game. So kudos to them, especially after the past few weeks where they have struggled against some really good pass rushes. This is not the unit that those were, but they do have 2 very good edge rushers, and those guys didn't take over the game. So kudos to Morgan Moses, who continues to play pretty well for them, even if he has a couple lapses a game. And Will Campbell, who when he was, on, that dude was on. He had a very good game. It was just, that one mental lapse in the hold, which in the grand scheme of things wasn't a huge deal.
I'll use D's super chat here. Shout out D to kind of jump off here. Why is the run blocking so bad? SMH. What did you see from them trying to get a push on the ground yesterday?
Yeah, so it was more of what we saw like a few weeks ago, where they were like, it feels like we're always one block away,
right?
Which isn't terrible considering there have been a lot of runs for no gain and negative yards the past few weeks. There weren't a ton of run stuffs, which I would say was a net positive. But the issue was they would get, like, most people would be where they were supposed to be. And I also think the fact that it was a short week made some of the run plans a little bit complicated, where it seemed like some guys weren't blocking the right person, where when you draw it up and you say, okay, this play is supposed to go here, and then you kind of adjust, because like there was one play, for example, where Jared Wilson's pulling. The linebacker he was supposed to block ends up blitzing. So he's, I think, looking at that guy thinking, oh, I follow him. You don't follow him. You keep going because somebody's going to pick him up for you, and you need to stay on your track and block because you are leading the running back through the hole. Instead, he basically just ran into a pile, and there was no one to block the safety, and he fills there.
Sure.
There were a lot of ones like one where Mac Hollins didn't seem to block the right guy. I thought Hunter Henry, there was one rep where he probably should have cut off a blitzing linebacker. Instead, he blocked the edge, but you want to block the most dangerous man, and the guy got right into the backfield. And then there were also just some where it was like one individual person losing their block, and then it kind of screwed everything else up, whether it was, Mike Nwenu losing to the backside of outside zone, Jared Wilson getting pushed back on the backside of a gap run, and it turning out to collapse everything else. So it was just so many kind of little things that kept them from having positive runs. This could have been a much more productive game, and we talked about that. This Jets run defense was not great. They stuff a lot of runs, and again, the Patriots prevented that, so you got to give them some credit there. The only real negative runs was the toss where Will Campbell kind of missed his block. I also thought some of the blocking angles were kind of weird. I don't know. It was a little bit of a funky scheme, and it did feel like something that was probably put together on a short week. Although I liked the wrinkles, the execution wasn't always there. So that was what I saw. I would hope that maybe they take another step forward next week because there were positives. Like Jared Wilson had some great pulls and blocks at the second level. Will Campbell had some really good ones. Mike Nwenu and Morgan Moses I thought looked good for the most part. It was just small things keeping them from being more consistently effective. But as we said earlier, they were good in the red zone and they were good in that 1 minute drive at the end of the game. So tip of the cap there. That's the definition of doing it when you need to. But you'd also like the ground game to be something that you feel like you can rely on versus run 2 times and you get 2 yards.
Definitely. I do want to, you mentioned end of half drives. I want to talk about the kind of strange 2-minute drive at the end of the first half. Where they ended up trying to settle for 3, and then Andy unfortunately missed the field goal. We're also going to get to the defensive side of the ball here in a little bit. So, Chase, I see your super chat. We're going to use that as a jumping off point later on as well. But first, I got to tell you guys about the meats. Where is my Omaha?
Where are the meats?
There are the meats. Look at that burger. Oh, baby. Omaha Steaks, the official sponsor of tailgating. From legendary burgers to mouth-watering steaks, deli-style franks, and so much more. You can elevate your next game day with with America's original butcher, Omaha Steaks. For more than a century, Omaha Steaks has delivered the world's best steak experience. And right now, they have an exclusive offer on omahasteaks.com. If you use promo code Patriots at checkout, you can get $35 off. That can be added to the current 50% off site-wide sale they have leading into the holiday season. So don't miss out on delicious steaks with the official sponsor of tailgating. Visit omahasteaks.com and get $35 off with promo code Patriots. Terms apply. See site for details. And oh, baby, those steaks look phenomenal. Are you laughing at the ad read or are you laughing at something else?
I'm laughing at something else.
Okay, that's okay. I'll let you laugh.
I'll tell.
Oh, okay, go for it. What do you got?
Have you seen TreVeyon Henderson's nickname?
No.
Godspeed.
Oh, that's awesome. That's good. I like that. Yeah.
Wow, that is excellent.
A very religious man with a very fast set of legs. That is, I like that. Godspeed. That's pretty good. I like that. All right, quickly before we transition to defense, that odd 2-minute drill at the end of the first half. I know you had that on the shit that gets you beat towards the end there, where just reading your notes, but Kyle Williams kind of had another looked like miscommunication with Drake Maye, and then I just thought it was odd that they, with how good Drake Maye is playing, like, why not push it a little bit further and try and get close to the end zone and take another shot? And I know that at one point there was only like 8 seconds left.
They did.
Okay, talk to me. What'd you like? What'd you see?
So one of the miscommunications with Kyle. So let me get. Yeah. So one of the miscommunications with Kyle Williams was there was an unconventional Tampa look.
Okay.
Where Drake saw them kind of rotate, where I think it was a corner. Somebody in a funky look ended up going and playing the deep half, and there was a big void where he rolls out and tries to hit Kyle Williams. Kyle Williams doesn't recognize it, and that was one of the throws where you saw he ended up almost getting intercepted. And then I think, was it the post? Yes, it was the post. That one was on Drake, though. And I don't even know how much.
Oh, yeah, the one that was, okay. It was kind of like an
because It was also kind of a weird drop from Drake. So typically when you're in the shotgun, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You climb the pocket and then you throw. It was kind of weird. I think he might have taken an extra step, and that probably threw him off because you think about it, that's a timing throw.
Right.
If you kind of mess up your process and you're throwing deep, you can see how if that ball was maybe a couple yards in front, maybe it's more competitive. But Kyle Williams, I don't know if I couldn't tell live if he maybe tracked it a little funny and that affected it. I'm not really sure. But either way, that hung up in the air for too long and was interceptable. So that was really the two things that were a little weird to me. The first one again, and also the play where he didn't settle was nullified by the Will Campbell hold anyway. So that wasn't great. But it wasn't all Kyle Williams. Like Kyle Williams had times where he was open. There was another one where he was open vertically, and I thought it was a back shoulder live. And then at the film, I was like, oh no, I just think Drake missed him. And again, he's so good deep. He's going to have his misses. That's fine. But I do want to say it was not all on Kyle Williams. Drake had his misses as well. And also Jeremy Fowler, I didn't see this, but he had said before the game that Kyle Williams was hot in practice. So there was a reason that Drake was going to him. We talked about it, even though it wasn't quite as man heavy as we expected in that game, that Kyle Williams could have another game where they look to him more as he continues to build confidence. I really hope that he's not distraught after this. It seemed like he might have been a little bit down in the locker room, which you understand he's a young player. You know, when you feel like you maybe didn't do your best in a game, even when the team won, you can get down on yourself. And he's a really competitive guy. But looking at the tape, Kyle Williams is still a good player, man. People just need to be patient. The way we were with TreVeyon Henderson, when all these fantasy loons and prop betting MFers were like, you have to play him every snap. Why does he suck? Mike Vrabel hates him. Like, Jesus Christ. Like, please calm down. Be like Vrabel, where he has to remind himself that these guys aren't even 23 years old yet, other than Drake Maye. Like, pump the brakes. Kyle Williams is a very good player. He has a great attitude. The team likes him. Like, this is a guy that's good to get excited about, but you need to do so with a measured level of patience. That is all. Because like he's an exciting player, but we can't keep making it seem like he's supposed to produce the same way that Stephon Diggs does. It doesn't work that way for everybody. And not everyone's Lad McConkey. Some guys do need to get it under their feet, especially with Drake Maye and Josh McDaniels. Like that's not easy. That's a lot of expectations and a lot of knowing where you're supposed to be, doing the right thing, kind of having to adjust on the fly. That's not easy when you're also just supposed to line up in one of multiple different spots from play to play. And it feels like he's playing more on the boundaries, so it's not quite what was going on before where he really was lining up in different spots. But you know, it's really not easy in the system for young guys, as we know, when it's why the veterans really rose to the top faster. And even Demario Douglas maybe took a little bit before they really trusted him in the system.
And then I think too, you look at like the the tracks for different rookie receivers, and like I look at a guy like Nico Collins in Houston, who took a while to develop but has turned into one of the better players in the league, versus like a Emeka Egbuka this year, who is shining immediately. It's all about opportunity, right? Because
pedigree, to be fair, pedigree too.
Well, that too, yeah, for sure. But I look at like Egbuka, and I get the pedigree there, but also he's had opportunities, and he kind of had to step up and be one of their top receivers right away because of the Chris Godwin injury, and also because of the Mike Evans injury down the towards the second half of this year here, where like Kyle Williams is buried on the depth chart, but for good reason, because they're playing well ahead of him. And I know we talked about it last night, but just to reiterate, like if Stephon Diggs and Pop Douglas and Booty and Mac Hollins, if they all sucked this year and Kyle Williams still couldn't have gone down the field, that's when you start to get a little more concerned, because they're not even going to give this guy a chance when they can't get production on the wide receivers. But it's almost like if it ain't broke, don't fix it type thing with the room right now, where they've been fine. Give Williams his opportunities, but let's not try and shoehorn him into the offense when we don't need to, and potentially, risk, I guess, stunting his development. So I'm with you. Like, I think he's going to be fine. I think it's just early on in his career, and he has some work to do, but he also has a bunch of veterans ahead of him that have earned the right to play ahead of him right now. So third round pick, they spent the 69th pick on him. Like that, it's nothing to scoff about, but I think too, let's, like you said, measure our expectations a little bit with the rookie as well. So that is it here for the offense. Again, Pats put up 27 points. Drake Maye shines once again. Wide receivers look solid. Offensive line looks pretty good too. And overall, a good performance, a good output from Josh McDaniels' side of the ball. Let's talk a little defense before we get out of here. And the first thing I want to mention here, and sort of get your thoughts on is the pressure they were able to put on Justin Fields, because even with Milton Williams going out a little bit early in this one, they got after the Jets quarterback. They pressured him all night long. The quick numbers: 2 sacks, 4 hits, 13 hurries, and a 40.6% pressure rate on Fields, according to NFL Pro and Next Gen Stats. So what did you make of how they got after Fields? And I guess let's loop this in together, because they were able to pressure him, but also they kind of allowed him to run, and they kind of they got some pressure on him, but they also had a hard time containing him. He had 11 carries, led them in rushing with 67 yards and a touchdown. So I kind of want to get your thoughts on Fields all in one. Also looping in Chase's comment here. Thank you for the super chat. But do you think Fields and what he was able to do with his legs is a sign of what's to come against some more mobile quarterbacks, Lamar Jackson specifically, and then you got to play Josh Allen again, and then once you get into the postseason, even a guy like Mahomes, who's not Allen and Jackson, but has the ability to get away and can kind of escape a first for a first down if you don't contain him.
Yeah, so I'll start with the good.
Yeah,
pass rush, and I
know I
say
kind of threw a lot there on you. Sorry,
but
we'll hit Fields all at once.
Because they are intertwined. Like, it's a pass rush, it's the pressure, but it's also how they actually defended him, and I can get into we'll play it by ear. So
sure.
One, got to tip the cap to Christian Barmore for really stepping up when the defense needed him. Like, this was an offensive line with 2 of the best young tackles in football. So didn't think that edge pressure was going to be a huge factor in this game, even though, Kawaan Chason has definitely exceeded expectation. And Harold Landry is more opportunistic than he is a consistent threat. But you really, without Milton Williams, it had to be Christian Barmore moving that pocket. Like, I like Corey Durden. I mean, he had 3 hurries. That's his second week in a row with 3 hurries, Corey Durden. So, kudos to him, but he had to take on a bigger role with no Milton Williams. Kyrus Tonga, who he had a hurry and a batted pass, really good awareness, knowing he was double teamed to get his hands up because he couldn't really be a pass rush threat. Like, Durden and Tonga are very good pass rushers in limited sample sizes because they're not really built to be a Milton Williams or Christian Barmore,
right.
But they had to take on bigger roles, and that's not easy because you're also asking them to set up twists and do stunts and things like that they might not do together all the time. And I think you saw sometimes, like, even Eric Gregory being in the mix, he had to play more. Like, there were times where I thought their line stunts didn't look quite as effective as they have in the past. But there was one nasty one where Kyrus actually freed up Barmore. Barmore got the pressure, but Justin Fields got away, got the pass off. Tonga buried him. Like, Justin Fields lets it go, and Tonga takes him and drops him to the ground. Another one where I'm just like, being a quarterback in the NFL,
awful,
freaking insane. But Barmore, a sack, a hit, and 3 hurries. He led the team with the 5 total pressures. That was his first sack since Week 12, 2024 at Miami, so congratulations to him. First hit since Week 5 at Buffalo of this season, and those were his first hurries since Week 8 versus Cleveland. We had said he'd been pretty quiet the past few weeks. This was a huge bounce-back game for him. Also, looked like the back injury wasn't as much of a factor, so maybe that had something to do with it as well. I feel like it'd be naive to think that didn't, considering the timeline of that kind of overlapped a little bit. Also, Chason, got to give him credit. He did have a pretty big hit. He had 2 hurries and also a pass breakup on great awareness against a trick play. That's not the first time either the teams have tried some bullshit his way, and he was like, absolutely not. I know exactly. There was that, was it Cleveland? They tried to throw a double pass or something like that, and they didn't even get the throw off because he was standing right there. So these edge defenders, man, they have really great awareness. Harold Landry had a hit in a hurry, and Elijah Ponder, second sack in as many weeks, doing a really good job not getting too far upfield and coming back to keep Justin Fields from being able to get out of the pocket. So those things were good. What was not so good was the QB contain. Now, it wasn't horrendous, but Justin Fields scrambled 4 times for 40 yards, 3 conversions, and 2 runs of at least 10 yards. In closer games, that's the kind of stuff that gets you killed. That literally reminds me of last year against the Colts. Remember, where they had that, and Anthony Richardson's athleticism basically took over at the end of the game and kind of screwed them. So the first one was Barmore got snatch trapped. It was honestly kind of brutal. It was a really, Armand Membu, I love that young man so much as a player. He is fantastic. Barmore tried to kind of get into his chest. Membu snapped his arms down and just buried Barmore. Then the guard kind of helped out. It was ugly. And then Justin Fields was able to get out. But the other 3 times that Justin Fields escaped the pocket, it was all to Kawaan Chaison's side. He has got to be better about setting that edge. There were some times where he just completely drifted inside and had no idea Fields was going out the other way. Sometimes where he just wasn't sturdy enough. He's got to be better. There was also one where I might give him a little bit of leeway because he drifted inside and Marte Mapu was the spy, but both Chason and Mapu got caught because Fields started to drift right, then came back. Against guys like him, they're too fast. You cannot compromise the edge because there's always the threat of them reversing field. So you got to be better, as the question asked, when you're going up against like the Lamar Jacksons of the world. Another one where Barmore actually missed a tackle after getting outside of Chason, but again, that's a pretty tough situation. Another one where Tonga got caught inside as well. So got to do a better job keeping him contained because you gave up some big plays to Justin Fields' legs. And it's not like it's the first mobile quarterback you faced. You haven't played a ton, and he is a better athlete than what you've seen, but now it's on tape. Now you know where you have to be better, and that needs to happen because 4 scrambles for 40 yards. Again, it might not be a backbreaker, but those came on 1st and 10, but then 3rd and 4, 3rd and 8, and 2nd and 10 with 3 minutes and 30 seconds left in the 4th quarter. Those are pretty big situations that you just can't afford to give up. Again, if you're playing like the Ravens and you're in some low-score kind of game.
Totally, in a different game, in a different situation, those are backbreakers that quite literally lose you the game. Like you talk about the good, the bad, and the shit that gets you beat. Like that'll get you beat against a better team than the Jets, 100%. So they do definitely got to clean it up. And going towards the question here, it is definitely, I don't know if it's a sign of things to come, but it puts your deficiencies against mobile quarterbacks on tape so that you can clean it up, improve it, and kind of move forward that way and make sure you clean it up on that front.
And I can keep going on the court in the run defense as well while we're at it. Because
so let's hold on. Let's just talk about Monarch money, and then we will close out with some final defensive thoughts here on the game before we get out of here. So if you want to feel organized and confident in your finances, use Monarch Money, the all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean interface on your laptop or on your phone. Right now, just for our Patriots Daily listeners, Monarch is offering 50% off your first year with code Patriots at monarchmoney.com. The app, the service is built for people with busy lives. If you've put off organizing your finances, Monarch is for you. They do all the heavy lifting, link your accounts in minutes, and give you clear data visuals on your spending. So don't waste this financial opportunity. Don't let it slip through the cracks. Use code Patriots at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. Again, that's 50% off your first year right now at monarchmoney.com with code Patriots. All right, let's hit some closing thoughts here on this Jets-Pats game from last night. I know the run defense as a whole, and then maybe a little bit on the red zone deficiencies. Jets went 1 for 2 down there. Obviously, the first drive there was the real killer.
I say 2 for 3 because there was the one on the 22-yard line. If it's 25
that was the 22-yard touchdown, right?
Yeah,
I was looking. It's funny. I looked at the stats today and I saw 1 for 2. I was like, "There's no way," because they scored 2 touchdowns. What was the other one? I was like, Justin Fields threw a pass over 20 yards, and he did, and they scored.
I was like, last week they scored a 21-yard touchdown. I was like, bullshit. That's a red zone touchdown.
Red zone what you say. Totally. But just on the run D, and then we can loop in the red zone too here before we get out of here. 28 carries as a whole against the run, or 28 carries for 140 yards and a touchdown. I was trying to look at the numbers. I didn't get back to it enough. Was 140 yards the most they've let up on the ground this year? I don't know. I couldn't find it easily, but it felt like
right now. Just stall for me.
Yeah, they struggled a little bit, and the cracks are slowly starting to, I guess, come about. Last week you had Sean Tucker going for over 50 for the first time. Last night you have 2 running backs now, or 2 runners rather. Justin Fields goes for 67, and then Breece Hall has 58. So they're cracking a little bit against opponents' run, and I don't know if it's a trend.
It was a unique situation this week, I will say, because of the game.
No, for sure. But I guess where are you at with the run D? Again, I don't know if it is the most
in total. So yes, in total, 140 was the most. The second most was 120 against the Panthers, and then 118 against the Bills. But you're also accounting for scrambles in those as well.
True. Okay. So thoughts on the run D and what you saw from them, and then we can loop in the red zone too before we get out of here.
So I thought the conventional run defense was good. I really thought that the defensive line did a better job clogging up lanes. Gibbons was fantastic. He had 3 tackles. 2 of them went for stops. He had a missed tackle, but also, and I count this as a run, I don't care, he blew up a screen. You're taking on a blocker.
Sure.
You don't take on blockers like that when you're on a pass, so I count it. Also, Hawkins and Spillane both had 3 tackles each with 1 stop. So those guys are really good. The defensive line also caused enough disruption. Elijah Ponder, Eric Gregory, Christian Barmore, Kawaan Chason, Marcus Jones, and Harold Landry also had stops. So that tells you, like, these boys were flying around. These aren't just tackles. These were stops. So it was an impressive performance, I thought, when it was like under center and there wasn't really the threat of Justin Fields. When there was a threat of Justin Fields, that's where things became problematic. So I'm going to start with some of the overall. He had 6 designed runs for 27 yards, 3 conversions, an explosive, and one of the runs was stuffed. Now, the positives, there was one play in the first quarter where Hawkins took on a pulling left guard, which you'd love to see that from your safety. Yep. That's a really tough play. Then Gibbons slipped under his block and made a tackle. Another one where Ponder chased Justin Fields to the sideline on his own read. That, I think, is going to be significant because that's something that I think the other guys struggled to do when Justin Fields kept it on zone reads, and Ponder is very fast. He's big and he's fast. So when they play Lamar Jackson, if he continues to play well and grow, maybe he has some kind of expanded role there. Also, Craig Woodson, who is just tough as shit, him and Hawkins both. Woodson beat a blocker, and that limited a bigger gain that looked like Fields was about to spring it, and he just made a guy miss and brought him down. So good there. The bad. Harold Landry gave up a touchdown where Justin Fields made the wrong read on his own read. Harold Landry stayed where he was supposed to, but Justin Fields was too fast for him. And you want to say, hey, that guy's just a great athlete. Well, again, so is Lamar Jackson. So You're going to have to figure out how exactly you're going to figure that out, because it's not even like with other teams where you're saying, oh, I'm just going to have my guy crash down and just have a linebacker fill, because your linebackers aren't super athletic. So I'm very curious how they're going to figure that out moving forward when they play more athletic quarterbacks who run the ball a lot. There was another one where Christian Barmore was kind of a defensive end. They left him unblocked. I don't think Barmore has had a single rep this season where somebody just left him unblocked. So understandably, he went right to the running back. Justin Fields had a long lane to run through. And then there was that run on 3rd and 2 in the fourth quarter where Ponder and Christian Gonzalez both had Justin Fields dead to rights, but couldn't make the tackle. So again, Elijah Ponder, very fast man. Got to be more consistent when you have opportunities, though. And then it wasn't just Justin Fields, because there were also times where Breece Hall actually benefited from the threat of Justin Fields' legs. There was one where Kawaan Chason lost the edge on that opening drive against speed option on 3rd and 1. That's a very tough situation. But again, how do you improve in the future? Because what if that's a 3rd and 1 at the end of the game and the Ravens say, I know that you're not going to be in a good position to defend this. Right. So that's one that stood out to me. There was a bounce versus a wide edge between Barmore and Tavai. That was because they were in kind of a spreadish look where Tavai was covering somebody further from the formation. Barmore was the edge guy just relative to where he was as kind of like a pseudo-odd defensive end. There was so much space. There was no way they could have just stuffed Justin Fields, so he ended up getting a positive run there. And also, there was a play where it wasn't technically a read. I think it was just duo, but Barmore was engaged with his block and peeked at Justin Fields to try to see where he was, and that kind of forced him to be late going to the other side to react to the back. Then he wound up getting shoved out of the gap. So I will be interested to see how they adjust there, because it wasn't, again, when it was just straightforward run game, I thought they looked the way they've looked. But you could see that Justin Fields being crazy athletic, not only creating problems in one-on-one matchups, but also with people having to be mindful of him and how that affected other things. Now, we'll also have to take into consideration that the Pats did have positive plays. They did adjust pretty well for the most part, but what stood out to me was the fact that a lot of the bad runs that they had actually came later in the game. The positive ones I mentioned were in the first quarter, and the third quarter. The bad was the first quarter, the third quarter, and the fourth quarter. And then 2 of Breece Hall's big runs positive runs that I mentioned with the threat of the QB run were in the third and fourth quarter. So as the game went on, you did start to see more cracks, and maybe that was just good scheme from the Jets, but you're going to have to work on those because a much bigger challenge awaits.
Definitely. That's where, you look at it, it's a good learning opportunity. I think this one was where, again, we talked about it, but you come out with a win, short week, just get in and get out, and put a mark in the W column and get out of here. And it gives you some stuff on film too to kind of adjust and fix, especially when you come up against these mobile quarterbacks who can also throw like Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen. Just quick thought on the red zone defense before we get out of here, because I know that's continued to bubble up. And you mentioned really 2 for 3 in the red zone, not 1 for 2, but what did you make of it down there, and how can they fix that moving forward?
Yeah. So the first one was Carlton Davis. That slant conversion he gave up on 3rd and 7. Like, to be fair, AD Mitchell cooked. I think that was AD Mitchell, right? Who ran that route?
Yes, it was.
Yeah, he cooked everybody that he lined up against. Couldn't catch the ball most of the time, but you saw the explosiveness. So, I don't know how harsh I can be to Carlton Davis, but he wasn't even competitive on that slant. That was pretty disappointing. Then there was the touchdown, again, that I mentioned where Harold Landry is unblocked, does his job, and still isn't able to hunt down Justin Fields. Not something you're going to see every week.
He looks very slow trying to go get after Fields on that play.
And I've been a Harold Landry. I don't want to say apologist. That sounds condescending. Like, he's a good player.
Yeah, right.
But that is where you see, like, even if the get-off's good, the long speed and the mobility isn't where it was when he was a younger player for sure. And another one where you could see if they could have gotten some better depth, that would have been nice, and why it might be a pretty big area that they look into moving forward in the draft next offseason. But that's a ways away. Also, Craig Woodson slipping while covering Jonathan Mechie. Like, look, he slipped. It is what it is. Stop asking your safeties to cover people who run 4.3s across the field. It doesn't make any sense. It's the same thing that happened in the Raiders game with Trey Tucker where Jalen Hawkins got cooked. And Jalen Hawkins got cooked on another play where AD Mitchell caught it over the middle. Like, am I right? Did that happen?
Yes, I believe so.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think Hawkins gave up. Oh, it was I think, was it Mechie?
I don't know.
Was it AD Mitchell? Well, there was stop asking safeties to cover speed when they're the number 3s and they're just wide open in the middle of the field. It is not fair to them. And obviously, to be fair, the pass rush didn't get home, even though they had a plus blocker. But I just hate those matchups. I understand. And sometimes they work. Like last week, I think there was one where it did work, but when you don't get home, you're playing with fire, and I just didn't know if that was necessary on 3rd and 6. I feel like you could have gone with something a little bit more competitive there. But for the positives, like Del Pettis had the 4th down breakup and might lead to some more opportunities for him. He also had a 3rd down stop in the open field, so good job there. But yeah, I mean, there's not a lot where they're so uncompetitive and it looks like – actually, no, that's not even true. There are some pretty egregious ones where they just completely lose people. Yeah, the red zone defense is a problem. You can make excuses. You can say, oh, yes, but this happened, but that happened. You are a historically bad red zone defense right now. I don't know how you fix it. There's an element to this where sometimes they do kind of get into – I don't think they get into bend but don't break mode necessarily, but sometimes that's just how these drives play out where it's an explosive offense and they say, hey, we're just going to kind of sit on a fence and let you chuck it down and take these 5 and 6 yard gains. And then you kind of sleepwalk and you're like, oh, my God, how did they get to the 20-yard line already?
Right.
And then – yes, they are competitive, but you're also giving up way too many touchdowns. And as we've been saying for weeks, that is a problem that is going to get much more significant when you don't have some of these cushy leads that you've had. And then as great as Drake Maye has been, you don't want to put him in those situations where he has to get into a shootout where you can't stop points from ending up on the board. So probably the biggest area of improvement that this defense needs moving forward.
100%. But at the end of the day, we're 9-2. They're 9-2, excuse me. And we get a little bit of a weekend here, Taylor. You ready to rest up? You ready to rest up before Cincy week?
I've been sleeping with my eyes open this whole show.
Yes, you have. But it's 6 o'clock. It's Friday. It is time to put the tape away. It's time to take a little bit of our own mini bye week here. Patriots, as we know, now off this weekend. Back at it next Sunday, taking on I thought I had a lower third for it. No, I don't. That was in the postgame show. Taking on the Bengals the following week. So we'll get ready for that coming up next week. We will do some sort of film breakdown type thing early next week before they turn the page to the Cincinnati Bengals for their week 12 matchup. So they are, like we said, 9-2. Drake Maye is the front runner for MVP. The vibes are very high. The Nor'easter jerseys looked awesome. Rob Gronkowski was there getting the place rocking with the keeper of the light. He smashed the guitars. It felt like everything was right in Foxborough, and Taylor's yawning, so I have to fix.
I'm sorry.
I have to get this outro going even sooner. But regardless, thank you guys as always for all the support and watching our coverage here. Make sure to rate, review, and subscribe to Patriots Press Pass. We'll still continue to have plenty of coverage throughout the weekend. Or if you missed it, Pat's Beat was on earlier, Pat's Chat was on earlier, and there will be a ton more to break down here moving forward. So until next time, take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. Taylor, go shut your eyes, and peace out, everyone. See you later.